Hey guys, John Lee here. I'm here for Cancer Donations tin number 2. This is to raise funds for Lymphoma Australia. I've had a colleague affected by cancer just 2 months ago, so we're getting behind this organisation, which will ultimately help to provide care nurses for lymphoma patients, which isn't yet available in Australia. So this would be a first. If we can get this across the line, then the hospital where our colleague is will ultimately get preference for these nurses. So there's 50 of us. We're each trying to raise $500 to make a goal of 25,000. The latest update is Oppa Wesen has been donating some funds, so he's kindly been contributing any prize money that he's winning from bit chess tournaments into this. The way it works for this channel is if you donate $20 or more, I will gladly analyse a game of your choice, no questions asked, as a token of appreciation for supporting my charity event. Today's game is based on a suggestion from Bruce Javier Surf. He suggested a game from Combo Cage 4, which was against Chicken Crossroad. I made a sacrifice of a queen for a pawn out of nowhere without adequate compensation. I don't think the sacrifice was sound, but I did win the game, so there's probably some lessons to be learned in terms of maintaining a practical attack, but also in how to defend against a crazy sacrifice like this as well, because I think Chicken should have held the game. So Bruce has kindly donated $20 to this link and has requested this game, so we'll get into it. Okay, so I have the white pieces here. This was already, I think we're already quite deep into the series here, so we were playing first of 10 matches. You can see I've confirmed it was 9-6 just after this game. So e4, e5, very standard opening. I'm going to breeze through this. Now, the move order is slightly different here. I mean, often knight c3 is played, but there's an option. Hang on, let me get the analysis brought up, that'll help. Often knight c3 is played, but bishop g5 offers another option. So I've played c3 here, and c3 is just another more passive way of playing. It just helps prevent the knight coming here, and then the plan is for the white knight to come in here instead. So it's really just to add a bit of variety to a series. So there's been a capture, queen retreats to defend c7, and yeah, it's a playable position for either side. So black's played bishop at e6 to block this diagonal, also support g4, b4, bishop b6. So these are all pretty standard ideas these days. A lot of people playing this. Now knight e3, this is something a little bit different. There's a number of ways of continuing. You could have played h3, you could play queen b3, you could play a4. There's a lot of different options here. Knight e3 is a little bit different because this knight's already fairly well placed. It's just to make black think of something different. So it's attacking the bishop, revealing this diagonal a little bit early. But yeah, nothing special. If black captures here, white's very happy because this pawn is actually better placed on e3 than f2. It's not a weakness here. In this case, it helps open up the file, defend the knight again. f4's covered by this pawn. So yeah, this bishop's still quite valuable, putting some pressure on, so he doesn't have to trade. He backs the bishop off just so it's not under the attack of g4. And here, white again has some options. I mean, bishop takes e6 is probably okay as well. I don't think there's any tricks that work with knight takes e5, but white can consolidate on the king side and hit this pawn. It's playable, but it may also help black, because if black wants to castle this way, then this rook will have a firing line. So yeah, there's nothing really direct for white here. It's just another move, another game. I chose Queen B3, just doubling up onto E6. And my opponent took, and here I actually wasn't sure which way I should recapture. We've got 4 different options. Using the knight on D2 is not as attractive because it opens up a weakness on F3, and then G2 will be a temporary hole. Maybe taking with the knight this way is okay, but it also has opportunities to go there. I don't think taking with the pawn's right because it just blocks the queen out, so it defeats the purpose of playing Queen B3. So I did choose Queen takes C4 in the end, and Bishop at E6 isn't an issue. You can place the bishop on D5. So yeah, the Queen's still active here, and we've got a unique position. So I think we're both new to this. Castles is a solid move, that's fine. And Bishop at D5, still trying to maintain pressure here. And the reason is just because Black's already played H6, so this is naturally something that you look to hit if you've got a bishop. Now Bishop at E2, that's a move I missed, and yeah, this move's a little bit uncomfortable because it's hitting my knight here, and my knight doesn't have any good squares to go to by moving forward. I'm not too concerned about the rook. I mean, that's just a fair trade. It's more about the weakness on F3. And here you could play sensibly with something like knight E1, but you do have to be careful. I mean, you can lose a game quite quickly. For example, if you go like this, then there's mate threats that can come up. Doesn't matter which way the king goes, rook at G1 mates. So yeah, white needs to be careful, and white doesn't really have much going in the position. So yeah, in hindsight, looking at this, maybe I would have played rook at E1 just to block off that hole. And yeah, it's still rock solid for either side. It's just another game to play. But yeah, after Bishop at E2, I thought a while, and I felt I didn't want to really enter a passive position like this. I felt that if I could maybe back off, but I will have a weakness on the light squares. Often you might try rook G1, but this bishop's also attacking here, so knight at G5 would be a good defensive move. No, you can't play rook G1 because that takes and knight at F2. So yeah, it's just a bit uncomfortable. It feels like black's making progress on white's king, and white doesn't have too much. What I did do though is absolutely crazy, and this is why Bruce will have suggested this game. And this is really just a rush of blood to the head. Sorry, let me just go back a step to the main line. Back on main line. Yeah, I went crazy with bishop takes f7 with the intention of sacrificing this queen for not much at all, really. So it progressed bishop f7, which is fine. And even here I could have played pawn at e6, which would have been better. If the bishop moves, there's a discovered check, winning the queen. But black can just take this. And yeah, the issue here is now this bishop's attacking that pawn. If I back off here, black's just happy to pick up a pawn, and he's still safe. That's a material advantage that he can slowly grind away with. You can go back to c4 and you probably end up repeating the position, bishop at h5. Yeah. Anyway, I wasn't really in the right mindset. I went and took this. Okay, which is absolutely crazy. It's just losing a queen for a pawn, really. Sure, there are some light square weaknesses, and that's probably why I did it, but yeah, I'm not going to say that this is a good option for white. it's maybe a little bit practical, but not even that great. The concession I had was after bishop at c4, so that's pinning this and threatening pawn at g6, defending d3. The idea was that I could at least maybe threaten to swap off this bishop and not necessarily give away a weakness back at home, but then have another bishop to place on the diagonal and maybe keep hitting. So he chose to take the rook, which is fine. Could have also taken the knight. That's a possibility. One possible line might be taking this, but white's got to be careful. You can't just recapture this because you'll be mated. You get knight at h3. Now, the trick here is black wants to do a smothered mate with queen at g1, but it doesn't work just yet because the king can go to g2. So queen at g1, that's sure there's a whole bunch of checks, but it's not going to lead to mate. What black can do though is black can force mate with bishop at g2, and if knight takes g2, there's now a knight sitting there blocking the king, and then the smothered mate works. So if you're a clever cookie, you'll say, well, don't take it with the knight, take it with the king to avoid mate. But it's only temporary because knight at f4 check can't run the king up, you get mated here. And if you step back, now this knight covers that square, so you still have a smothered mate. So that's just a little bit of finesse. That's one continuation that could have happened. But look, in this situation, you shouldn't play g takes f3 because that allows knight at h3, so it would be rook at f5. Black can block with the bishop or even just back off here. And knight at g5 is a natural continuation, very useful piece, covering up the light squares. If check, there's nothing special here for white. I think black's still better. Has a material advantage, just needs to patch up on the light squares. It's still a game, there's still a bit of a grind, but yeah, it's holding on to an advantage. So that was one way of continuing, but the way black played was also fine, just took the rook. And king h8, so that's very sensible, just getting out of the way of the pin and saying, well, if you don't take my rook now, then I'm going to move it, maybe even take here, and saying, what have you got? So I took the rook, and yeah, very little to play for here is white. So already, black's taking care of the main problems, which would have been, maybe bishops doubling up on this pin from the rook that was there. So yeah, as white here, you've got to play practically. So I'm still going to try to hammer the light squares, and it's not even a threat here. I mean, rook at h7, king g8, but yeah, I have to try to make something. So here he played bishop at g6, and yeah, there's options for black. I mean, he could have possibly even ignored it and played something like bishop at e2. Another good move may even be just bishop takes a2, because pawn at e2 will be really useful for him to start attacking. I mean, the easiest way in for black here is the back rank, because he's got the rook in hand and only one rook to battle against. There might be some way of trading this off at some stage when the time's right and just coming in on the back rank. And meanwhile, if white tries checks, yeah, there's not too much black needs to be concerned about. I mean, like white would have to build up with something like pawn at e6, knight e5, pawn f7. Yeah. So even here, I think pawn at e2 is probably very strong. Yeah, I think black does need to be careful in execution, but I would say takes. Yeah, even something sensible. Look at d1. There might be a check here, but black can afford to part with this queen. There'll be a, yeah, there should be check here. Look at f1. Just looks like too much to handle. So, you can run this way. There should be a simple mate here. Yeah, maybe knight at g2. g1, sorry, not g1. That's mate. Yeah, doesn't really help for white to run around. There'll be mate somewhere. There's just too much. So yeah, that's possibly one continuation. I mean, because white doesn't really have anything here, sometimes you don't have to respect every threat that's a check. You can ignore it. And in this case, I think bishop takes a2 just is a greedy material grab, which is justified because white doesn't really have a threat. But he defended with bishop at g6, and I played pawn at e6. So I mean, black's still fine here, but in defending this with black, I mean, one of the principles here is white has quite limited material. So the key to just keeping white out is not really allowing white to progress with any pawns that are already on the board. So if you can, you want to avoid capturing a bishop like f5, because that helps white get another pawn or another piece into the game. You just need to hold it at bay. So yeah, here he took the pawn. It's still fine. Rook at h7 was something he wanted to cover against, so he went pawn at h7. And this probably gave me a little bit of something to play for, because now I can capture this and play bishop at f5, forking the king and the bishop, and then capture. So that's exactly what I was talking about. Like, white's made a tiny little bit of progress, and it's threatening some checks to come in as well. So that's only a little bit of help that black's given, but it's the start of heading backwards. So the king's gone back to h8 again, renewed the threat with rook at h7, and now it's a little bit more something, because rook at h7, king g8, pawn at f7, king f8, rook h8, winning the queen. White's making progress, and black still doesn't have that pawn at e2 threat, which was the preferable option. So bishop at g8, pawn f7, bishop at h7. So still just playing along the same line. So white just has a very blunt plan, just keep playing on the light squares. Now bishop at c4. And the idea of this was, if there is a capture, then maybe you can bring a piece into the game. But yeah, I think capture, that's fine. Bishop at g8. Now, yeah, to be really accurate, I should probably take the opportunity to play rook at h7 here. It's just a little bit more threatening now, because now the light squares are more under attack. As the game went, bishop at e6, nothing different, but I think here is probably one of black's last opportunities to stop defending and start attacking. And I think right here it's quite sharp, but pawn at e2 is the right move to go for. And important using a pawn or a bishop, because you get to promote his check. But yeah, what black needs to be careful of is really the mate threat, which could follow in future, which is to do with rook at h7, king moving across, and ending up on e7 with the knight d5 mate. So yeah, in fact, before I go into this line, maybe I'll continue on how the game finished first, and then I'll show how black could have had an improvement. So a capture was made, check was played, and now this is getting actually really dangerous for black. And yeah, maybe it's something still that black can hold, but it is getting very difficult. Bishop at f7 is the big threat. King f8, rook h8, king e7, and knight d5 mating. Because now there's two attackers on f7, so yeah, very difficult for black to defend by now. The way it continued is black played pawn at e2 here, but it's probably just a moment too late, and the game finished with mate. Yeah, not through any brilliance of white, just plain hacking on light squares. That's the only way white can play. But yeah, what I really want to use this game for is an opportunity on how to defend and when to counter-attack potentially. In this case, I think pawn at e2 should be played here, and we'll go through that. So the difference being that rook at h7 isn't a threat yet. The sharp line that will continue is bishop takes g8. And remember, I've just mentioned knight d5 is the key mating move, because if you look at black's position, if you want to defend, and here I may even just flip the board for the benefit of the viewers so you can see what defense looks like. You've got to accept that the black's already conceded all the light squares here, right? But for an attack to be successful, your opponent has to come in on both colours. Now the rook can, to some extent, cover some of the dark squares, but if it's going on h7, it's going to get stranded there. So the question really is, what's going to hit the dark squares? And that's going to be the knight. So amidst all of the action happening here, the key to defense in my mind here is actually having a look at where this knight can go to d5, and if we can neutralize that threat. So at this point in time, there's no check, which is why I think pawn at e2 is appropriate. If bishop takes g8, it's tempting just to take the rook, but in fact I think black should play for more here. Having a knight in hand for black is also going to be useful to attack. So I like bishop takes e3, and it is quite sharp, but the idea is that if the same checks follow like they did in the game, there's no knight d5 here, right? And now suddenly black's attacking the rook. So, white has no time to capture that queen. There's going to be mate that follows. That's just one way of doing it. And that shift in initiative is enough. Now white might try to defend with knight takes e3, covers here, threatens mate again. But yeah, this bishop is no mating threat, because f8's covered. We can block against the bishop coming in here. It's really all about this knight. I think king takes is probably too dangerous. Black has the opportunity to block white out of his own safety, and then something like this would deliver mate. 91, capture. It's all fairly trivial here. This is straightforward winning. Yeah, I just play out the mates for the benefit of the viewers that are new to this, just so they can see there's no myth just saying that there's mate, like it actually is there. So yeah, you can continue this way, takes, but now there's no knight at d5 threat, so black can take his time getting into this position. You can play something like rook at a1. That's just threatening to take here after bishop at e2, knight at f4, capture, takes, take. That should be the end of it. There's no deadly checks here. Rook e8's covered by rook e8. Rook d7 doesn't go anywhere, because white has nothing to attack the dark squares with. So yeah, that's what I think would have been a sharper way to play. I think it's just pawn at e2 one move earlier, because the difference is all on this knight and on e3. And by the time Black decided to do it, it was all the difference of one tempo that White can now get this check in. Yeah, that's all there is to it. So yeah, there's that line, and there was also the option of just taking on a2 much earlier in the game. Yeah, even well back here, just choosing to ignore White's attack altogether and getting pawn at e2. So yeah, so that's Cancer Donations Tin 2, the game. So I hope that's at least useful from perspective of how to defend against a blunt attack like White had. Yeah, I'll continue with some more videos. We've got another game of the week coming up, and also another Cancer Donations Tin piece. So again, just a reminder. Yep, you can go to the link at the bottom of this video. Yeah, if you donate $20, I'm happy to go through a game of your choice. I'll close the video off there. Hope you're doing well this week, and we'll see you soon.